Right on. Indeed. The best days of my life. Nothing could come close. This is what my older friend told me about the days his children were born. He told me this upon learning that Susan and I were expecting the arrival of our first child. I'd heard this sentiment before. The birth of children I had become accustomed to hearing throughout my life is an amazing, awe-inspiring experience, a moment to be treasured, an occasion for revelry, if ever there were one. And so that's what I expected to experience too. But by the time our first child, Leah, entered the world a few months later, nearly 2 weeks past her due date, emerging after Susan had endured a lengthy and challenging labor, including some fear-filled hours of medical intervention culminating in a C-section she had worked so hard to avoid until it became absolutely necessary. I'm thinking we were both more exhausted and relieved than revelrous. As the surgery took place, I knelt by Susan's side, focusing on her face, hoping to provide comfort, but also to avoid seeing what was happening on the other side of the blue draping. I'm a little squeamish. Soon a cheer came from those gathered around Susan's belly. "It's a girl," they said. Immediately, I lost my sense of what to do or where to focus. As a nurse took Leah to be cleaned and swaddled, I heard someone say, "Get over here, Dad." I almost didn't know who she was talking to. Soon I was holding our daughter, and I won't forget the way she looked up at me when I spoke as if she had been waiting for me. That was a moment of revelry for sure. I brought her over to where Susan still lay and watched them have a similar encounter. After all that waiting and wondering and worrying, here was our daughter at last. Still, I didn't yet understand the significance of that day, and I don't think I would have described it in the moment as the best day of my life. It was a beautiful day in its result for sure, one that grows in importance for me the longer I have known and loved my daughter. But it was also a tiring day, a scary day, a day I couldn't fully comprehend then and that I still can't fully comprehend these many years later. I remember leaving Susan and Leah in the hospital the next evening to return home for a while so that I could care for what used to be our kids, our cats. As I drove toward the west, the setting sun and the autumn sky streaking the horizon with purple and orange, my mind raced with how different the world was now. It felt as though I were standing on the edge of a cliff, taking in an amazing and dizzying view that was altogether new. The awesome responsibility of parenting had settled into my spirit and hasn't let go since. And thus began my journey of being a father, a journey that continues to teach me more about life and myself than I could have ever imagined. A journey that has taught me about revelry too, but not in the way I might have predicted parenting children would have. I imagine that being a dad would be challenging for sure, but that it would also be a fount of happiness, splashing my wife and I in exuberant revelry on a regular basis. Viewed from a certain perspective, that's what's happened. But for me, the splashes have been more like spritzes, welcomed and refreshing, but not as frequent as I might have imagined they would be from afar. Clearly, I am not alone in this. Harvard professor Daniel Gilbert reviewed several studies of parents. Awesome. Little Freudian slip there. Anyway, he studied parents and determined that while children offer parents many things, an increase in daily happiness is probably not among them. These studies revealed that parents, on average, are less happy interacting with their kids than they are doing things like eating, exercising, or watching television. Another recent study calculated the stress costs of having children. This is the degree to which parents feel rushed or pressed for time, and discovered the costs are significant. Following the birth of a child, the time stress for parents increases as much as 22%. The truth is that parenting is a never-ending challenge, especially for those of us who may be unprepared for the life changes that becoming a parent brings. And look I'm only 11 years into this. I haven't even parented a teenager yet. It's coming. Almost immediately after Leo was born, I remember wondering why the exhausting truth of parenting had been so seldom shared with me. For months, when people learned I was going to be a dad, they spoke of their joy, of how much fun I was going to have, of how wonderful it all is. You know, a few people slipped under their breath, "Get ready." But in the heady excitement of the mysterious unknown, I heard their comments as encouragement rather than a warning. And truthfully, no warning would have changed what happened anyway. And maybe that's why the difficult truths of parenting are so seldom shared with expectant parents. What would be the point? How do you tell someone that parenting will ask everything of you? That it will ask for your best self, and it will reveal your not-so-best self? That it will wear you out, that it will teach you to realign your own needs and priorities, and that it will break your heart open in more ways than could ever be named. And that for many, it will weigh on your marriage too, as you navigate the challenges of blending two family systems into one and seek to share the responsibilities now before you. The most helpful wisdom I received about this marital balancing act required by all the new responsibility of parenting was when a friend suggested to me some months after Leo was born that there would be times when both Susan and I would feel like we were doing too much. Moments when each of us would believe that we were shouldering more than our share of the responsibility. And my friend said in those moments, we would both be right. I think about that wisdom when I see parents of young children struggling in their relationships. No doubt, in part, because of the time stress and challenges of parenting. And I want to say to them, I hope you're not blaming your marriage for the lack of happiness you are experiencing. No one with young children has a happy marriage. How could you? There is simply too much to do. Now, one of the dangers of sharing this point of view on parenting today, especially during a month when we have been invited to think about revelry, is that my comments may be heard merely as complaining, as anti-revelry, that I might put off those for whom parenting is a constant joy. To you, perpetually happy parents, I say, congratulations for achieving the maturity and perspective I have yet to obtain. I admire you. I want to be like you. Sometimes I am, but more than I like to admit, especially when caring for our delightful and sometimes demanding 3-year-old, I count myself among those parents that I often see at the library or at the mall playground who look like zombies. Have you seen them? Stumbling behind their exuberant children, or slumped in their chair, staring off into space or scanning their smartphone, catching a much-needed break from the fatigue of parenting. When I see these folks, I can't help but laugh, especially when my kids aren't with me. Because the looks on their faces are so familiar to me. And I'm reminded when I see them that I am not alone. And this is one of the messages I hope my remarks today will convey. To parents out there worn down from parenting, you are not alone. Let us revel in and celebrate our shared and tired humanity. Can I get an amen? Come on. Now, there's another danger here, and this is more serious. It's a danger that my stories might be afflicting those for whom parenting is, as of yet, an unrealized dream. My heart is with you in your hopes and in your disappointments. Fertility challenges have been a part of the story that Susan and I have shared too. May you find peace and meaning no matter where your story leads you. You too are not alone. Still, the call of today and this sermon is to reflect on the revelry of parenting, not just its challenges. And the truth is, I have experienced revelry, thankfully, right? And lots of it. But the revelry I've experienced as a parent has come to me not as some regular state that I can turn off or on at will, or that arrives because I expect it or can will it into being. My revelry has arrived via these invitations that come to me by surprise, usually from my children themselves, in flashes of opportunity amidst the mundane realities and routines of life. When we dedicate children in this church, I speak of the privilege and the responsibility it is to raise kids. And I speak of the joy of learning from our kids, as I say, the zest and wonder of life with which all children come into this world and which we too often lose later in life. When we do this ritual, I find myself pausing when I get to those words in the text, because I don't want to be a downer, you know? We too often lose zest and wonder. But you know, I've found it to be true, at least for me. Children do provide the zest when we allow ourselves to be open to it, and many are the times when I have needed to be open to it. And so instantly, it seems, I can be pulled from my preoccupation with my own thoughts, my own burdens, my own fatigue, into a celebration of life embodied by and through my daughters. These flashes of opportunity have arrived, for example, when I have gratefully recognized in their eyes or expressions glimpses of Susan's family or mine, or when I have seen them picking up new skills, their first laughs, their first hesitant steps, each new word they learn, especially if they've learned the words incorrectly. How could Susan and I not revel when many years ago Leah would call our laptop the cooter? Or when these days Claire says she wants to eat the pizza with the pet-a-ponies. Or listen to mucus on the radio. Revelry has also arrived when I grasp how amazing it really is for my daughters just to be growing and learning and living. When I can think back to those tiny, wrinkly babies they once were, and I see them transforming into the people they are becoming. When, for example, Leah gives a speech or runs in a track meet at school or performs in a recital, or when Claire is friendly with our neighbors or demands a group hug with Susan and me before bed, declaring, "I love you guys," and we know she means it. Where did these lovely creatures come from, and why do we get to be in their presence? I appreciate how comedian Louis C.K. speaks of how remarkable it is to see our children grow up through his story of attending his daughter's dance recital. He begins in typical Louis C.K. fashion by complaining. He says, "We started our daughter in tap dancing because we figured by the time she grows up, it will be the 1930s again. She'll have this thing that she can do that nobody enjoys watching." "Do you know who the audience is for tap dancing?" he asks. "The parents of tap dancing students. That's all of it. We all have to go to the show at the end of the tap dancing semester. And they have a big theater show, and all the kids get up there, and they all tap dance in groups of threes. It's about 6,000 kids. They do about 20 minutes each. So the show is about 7 months long. And everybody dies at the end. But you go because you want to see your kid tap dance, and it's an amazing thing. Because this was a baby. She was just a baby. She was just like, and now she's like, it's amazing. It is amazing, and it's moments like these and countless more that lead parents to endure the challenges of parenting, that lead us to trade our expectations of happiness for the discovery of meaning that our children bring to our lives, for the zesty life they help make possible. A life in which we are asked to be more than we thought we could be, and in which sometimes, to our surprise, we actually succeed, or at least move closer to what really matters, which is always less about what we receive and more about what we can give. Some of my favorite flashes of revelry and meaning-making I've been experiencing with my daughters have arrived when we sing together with that mucus on the radio. In fact, one of the first songs I heard Claire sing was a song that James and his sons played for us today. Oh, 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 from the back seat. I'll always think of her when that song comes on the radio for the rest of my life, and her sister too, because whenever it plays, I hear a needed reminder that this could, in fact, be the best day of my life. If I can just see what is already there and accept the invitations offered to me to celebrate and revel in it all, despite and maybe even because of the challenges that are also there. More recently, Claire's favorite song has been a tune I'm sure you've heard, they play it all the time, by a band called Walk the Moon. It's called Shut Up and Dance. That song offers me some precious and much needed wisdom too. Whenever the song begins to play, Claire, without fail, demands that everybody follow its message. Shut up, dance! Shut up, dance! She squeals again and again until we turn away from whatever else we might be doing and dance around with her. Shut up, dance! Shut up, dance! The sounds of that song have become like a gong used to center participants in a meditation. The song comes on the radio a lot. Bung! Wake up! This song says to me, wake up! See the beauty and the joy before you. Leave behind your attachment to so-called happiness and revel in this beautiful life. Shut up with your worries and your time stress and your unmet expectations. Shut up, Daddy. Shut up and dance. Dance this beautiful moment and be glad in it. And so with Claire's help and encouragement, I do, at least for the length of the song. And I'm always better for it. And so I leave you with the same blessing that Shut Up Dance has offered me. No matter the nature of your relationship with your parents or your children, or the children you may not want, or the children you have not yet adopted but someday will, or the children you have not yet conceived, see the beauty and joy before you. Leave behind your attachment to so-called happiness and revel in the chance to make meaning now in this beautiful life. Shut up with your worries and your time stress and your unmet expectations. Shut up, at least every once in a while, and dance. Dance this beautiful life. And may you be glad in it, despite all the reasons not to be. May you be glad indeed.